Yeah, between two burns. Between two burns, yeah, between two burns. Come and join the convo. Jason and Ethan here to talk, yo. Chillin' while we filling up the room with cigar smoke. Hey, between two burns. Between two burns, yeah, between two burns. This be the show that you like. We always keeping it hype. We got cigars and a mic, talking the pipe and the pint. Let's go.
All right, we are in for a very special episode of Between Two Burns. We are in episode 15, I believe is what we're at, man.
Sure. We're just pumping them out these days. We're professionals at this point.
Yeah, you can stop counting at some point. It's fine.
Until we get to episode 69.
That's going to be a very special episode. Very special episode. A very special episode. Bring your rain gear for that episode. As you can see, we got a special guest with us, Mr. Cole Ebersole. Cole, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yes, sir. How's it going, fellas?
It's great, man. For anybody who doesn't know, Cole is our store manager at our Southport location on the beach. He's our beach guy. He's
I was about to say not as good as you because you live at the beach, but hey,
yeah, that's right. That's
so
right.
Good.
That's right. That's right. He's our paddleboard guy. He's got one of the Xeno paddleboards. He's become a paddleboard guy at the beach, which is pretty cool. I use mine more often than I thought it would. And they're really good. They're nice paddle boards, to be honest with you. I kind of thought when we first got them, they would be like, if you guys may be too young, but like the cigarette companies used to have swag that you would save your cigarette packs for.
Marlboro starter jacket.
Yeah, you get a starter jacket or a bicycle or whatever. And it was just plastered with Camel or Marlboro on it. This, I kind of half expected it to say Xeno on it.
I kind of wish it did. That'd be cool.
Dude, just for a talking point, like, what's that?
Yeah. Like paddle around, smoking a cigar on my branded paddleboard.
Awesome. That'd be sick. It would be sick. So we've been trying to do this for a while. It's obviously hard for us to get all three of us in person, so we're going to do the remote. You went to the Perdomo factory back in February. Is that what it was, or was it January?
Yeah, it was like middle of February.
Middle of February. So that's typically when they do these tours, run them from, I think, beginning of January or just after the first of the year, kind of through mid-February, you're probably towards the tail end of the tours. Does that sound right or no?
I think we were like right in the middle because I think you said he had like 3 or 4 more after us.
Okay, so it goes to the end of February. Gotcha. So I've been trying to get together, do this, talk about this. I've been on this 2 years ago. We've tried to get Ethan to attend this now twice. He's come up with massive excuses to not go.
Having a child and having the flu is I know they're bush league, so I'm sorry.
I'll give you a pass on the flu one, but having the child one's bullshit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just kidding. So we wanted to go over this. It's obviously something that I think the average cigar smoker kind of, I don't want to say dreams about doing, but is something that, I'm sure when you've talked about it, people are like, oh my God, that's awesome. I'd love to do something like that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think the average cigar smoker should do it. I mean, it's open to
I do too.
Everyone.
Going into it for me, I wasn't entirely sure what the vibe of it was going to be, if it was going to be super educational but like to the point that it was boring, or was it just going to be a, cigar fest where you just got to smoke a bunch of cool cigars, but you just went to Nicaragua to have a cigar. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think they meld those two things pretty well. Like it feels like
exactly
a vacation.
What I was going to say. Yeah, you've got the vacation vibes to it. Like you're somewhere, but you're there to learn about their company, learn about their cigars, learn about the process. And we'll go over this as we go through. But I came back personally with a whole elevated level of respect for these companies, not just Perdomo, but all of them, but really the emphasis on the things that you'll see that happened at the Perdomo factory really gave me a new angle kind of on it, if you will. Like I was pleasantly, or more than pleasantly surprised at the overall vibe of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Without a doubt.
All right. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start it from the top. And, I'm going to ask you some questions. He's going to ask you some questions, but we're going to go over the whole thing, and I'll kind of guide us through the timeline. But, first things first, if you just heard, you did it with Perdomo. Arthur Kemper was your host and guide on this.
Yep.
And typically it's either him or Nick himself doing the tour. I did it with Arthur as well. I can't speak to how the tours are with Nick, but I can't imagine it being a better experience than I had with Arthur overall. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree. I mean, people maybe want Nick because obviously, founder of the company, he's the name
With the name
on
and everything.
the label. But
Yep.
yeah, obviously I can't speak to his tours, but Arthur was incredible, man. I mean, I've learned so much from him. He knows the ins and outs of that company without a doubt. And yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah. All right. So you left out of Wilmington, or did you leave out of somewhere else?
Yeah, flew out of Wilmington, flew down to Miami, got
Yep.
on the plane from Miami to Managua, which was surprisingly short plane ride. I think it was only like 2.5 hours from Miami to Managua.
Yeah. In Managua, not history guys, but geography guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Managua, capital of Nicaragua?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you fly into Managua. They put us up there for one night just as preparatory because nothing, to my knowledge, goes into Esteli, which is eventually where you end up at.
Yeah, I can't imagine Esteli would have an airport at all.
Yeah,
it's a small town.
And certainly not one that can support your average,
like an international flight,
airliner, type of 737 or something like that. So end up in Managua, capital, get there. They set you up in a great hotel, kind of resorty style hotel. There with the other people from the tour. So I assume you got to kind of introduce yourself and meet with some people who were also attending the same tour.
Yeah, it was like right across the street from the airport. So you get on a shuttle, which is like a 2-minute shuttle ride. And I mean, I was walking out of the airport. Obviously, I didn't know anyone on my tour at that point getting there. I was alone. And I saw, some middle-aged white guys wearing their Cuba Vera shirts and stuff. And I was like, all right, these are probably the guys that I'm going to be with.
I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell
Was one of them Eric Livingston?
I'm going to tell you right now, it could have been. It could have been. These guys are carbon copies, which is no disrespect to you guys if you are listening to this. But this was something I was going to bring up. When Robbie and I got there, we're all standing out there at the taxi pickup, whatever you want to call it, the arrivals gate, and pickup waiting on our shuttle bus, like a Colstead shuttle bus. And you look to your left, you look to your right, you're thinking like, oh, I'm in Nicaragua, stuff like that. Man, it's so it's clear that based on the time of the year that all of the companies that do factory tours are doing them that time of the year, right? So you look to the left, you got a dude in a AJ Fernandez t-shirt. You got another guy, he's got his Perdomo factory tour shirt, 1997. He's on his 30th try of going on this. There's my father folks were hanging around, but it's like, tell me you're here for a cigar tour without telling me you're here for a cigar tour. I mean, short of the camera around the neck, you got some dad socks and some New Balances on and the t-shirt untucked from the khakis, got some
Panama
cigars
hat,
tucked in there, Panama hat. You got your Tommy. So the wife bought you some new Tommy Bahama. You're looking good. Just waiting to go drug out there for the Sandinistas to grab you from your tour bus.
I got on the shuttle and I talked to these guys. I was like, you guys here for the Perdomo tour? And they were like, oh no, we're here for AJ. I was like, going to the Camino Real Hotel? And they were like, yep. Got on the shuttle with them. Some people from a My Father trip also got on that same shuttle. So yeah, it's all the companies seem to be doing it at that time, sending everyone to that same hotel. They got it down to a science for sure.
Yeah, and they all seem to have their own kind of place people hang out, right? Like their own setups. Perdomo's got the Campina there at, when we get to it in Esteli, that they clearly used, strictly have partnered with them. But that hotel. So you're saying that the hotel that they shuttled you to, you had other people from other tours there at that one? Is that what it was?
AJ tour, My Father. Those were the two other people I met who were with different companies for AJ and My Father. But I got the vibe that because it's right across from the airport. Nice big hotel, kind of got a resort feel to it. So I'm sure that
it does. It's got a nice resort, got a nice pool. Food was good when we hung out there.
Was phenomenal, man.
We got there lunchtime, so we had lunch and dinner there. They made it explicitly clear: do not leave this hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was an operation. There's some sort of casino next to it. I don't know if it is an operating gambling establishment or not.
It didn't seem
like it. No, I mean, we walked up to the side door. I think, that was within our realm to be able to go to. It had a bit of from dusk till dawn kind of vibe. Like you go in there, you're going to be like, something might happen. Big takeaway for me at the hotel. And I actually haven't asked you if this was the case with you. The cats.
Yeah. I sat down by the pool, ordered some food, and a pregnant cat laid down at my feet within like 2 seconds. There were cats everywhere.
So a cat who had recently had kittens was with Robbie and I, wouldn't leave us alone. And then the kittens just started climbing up our legs and onto the table. One took a piece of steak off my table. I had to grab it by the back of the neck and toss it off. It's like, you go to some countries and you see the videos and you got packs of wild dogs running around. This is just packs of feral cats looking for pieces of
you're in a nice, 4-star hotel, but you definitely get the Central American feel. Yeah. Cats running around. I think I saw like a few chickens out in the street out front. Yeah. You know where you are for sure.
So we're staying at so before we go into the actual Perdomo, the tour itself, are you smoking a Perdomo this evening or this afternoon, I should say?
I'm going to pretend that I'm smoking a Perdomo because I forgot to grab some before I left work on Friday. So this is a Perdomo Exclusivo. Yeah, I was planning on smoking Legacy, and it just got to be late Friday. We had a couple customers stay late, and we were trying to sweep them out the door, and I just forgot to grab one. So
that's all right.
Padron is.
Well, I am in fact smoking the Legacy, the shade grown Nicaraguan, which is going to be a big topic on this episode as we go through it, because our friend here got an early look at it before anybody else did, and was talking up its praises the way we are now. So we've talked about it a bunch, so we don't need to read.
So it's fresh on my mind. Yep.
Yeah. Have both of you smoked all 3 wrapper leaves now of it?
Yes.
I'm
a fan of the Connecticut personally. I think
they're all
phenomenal.
Too. I think they're all awesome. I'm a Connecticut smoker. I think that Connecticut is so good, and I can only assume it's because of this like double binder. Is that what you want to call it? The hybrid binder. You want to call it that?
Yeah. It's the Corojo Cameroon hybrid leaf that they shade grow instead of sun grown, and that's the binder on that cigar. And for me, I like the shade grown the best. Cole and I were talking about it before we got started, and I think all of us here are in agreement that not only is it the best Perdomo cigar they've ever made, but I know it's mine and Cole's. I think it's yours too, best and favorite cigar that's come out this year so far. I mean, it's stupendous.
It's my favorite cigar to come out this year. I personally enjoy it more than my favorite cigar of last year, which was the AJ 20th, and a lot of the stuff. It's a top 10 over the last 6-7 years period for me personally, because I like Perdomo. Like, I know a lot of people, they don't shit on Perdomo, but there is that kind of feeling sometimes that Perdomo doesn't veer much off of the straight and narrow off of their lane. In my opinion, they absolutely did in this instance in particular.
Yeah, I think they're so consistent that people almost get a little used to it.
You almost get a little bored with it, right? It's so good. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a big Perdomo guy. I smoked Perdomo even before I went. Perdomo Connecticut has been my go-to without a doubt. And yeah, the Legacy, that binder just elevates that Connecticut, gives it a little bit of spice.
It just the body a little bit. It adds that little bit of something that is not there. So yeah, I think it's their best line of cigars across the board. I think each one is respectively the best version of what that is. I think that's, champagne smokers, given how popular that is, will certainly tell you like you're crazy, but I think that is the best Connecticut they make. I think it's the best Maduro they make. And I guess you can't say it's the best sun-grown they make because that's not a sun-grown. It fits in that central part of the line. But I guess it's, not technically, so I don't want to say that. But
I'd love to know, and Cole, you may know the answer to this. How did they tell you how long they've been working on it? How long it's taken them to get that wrapper ready?
That he didn't say that I remember. No, I know. I mean, I know it was Nick Perdomo the third's project that he was
Right.
doing for his dad, and he had been working on it for a while. Like I want to say years, but they didn't give us like a specific timeline or anything
I
like that.
will say, I do remember they certainly didn't have any name or anything like that for it, but there was chatter when Robbie and I were in Nicaragua about something coming big specifically, in honor of Nick, that kind of thing. Now, 30th had not come out yet at that point either.
I was about
So,
to say you went 3 years ago, didn't you?
yeah. But I
So,
don't think they were actually referring to 30th when he was talking about this, because he was talking about like Nicholas doing this in honor of his dad wanting to do something. So I think even 3 years ago, it was at least in the lexicon of the now how long this wrapper and everything like that has been in the works. Because I would have to think, if we're talking hybrid, we were talking some sort of like genetic, not modified type of thing. So there's going to have to be some sort of test growing and something like that, wouldn't you
Mm.
think?
Oh yeah, I'd imagine there's like some sort of advanced, botany involved with
Yeah.
that, which they did not really go into. I would say when we were there, but
No.
yeah, I would imagine it took years and years to get that
yeah,
final product.
Yeah, I don't think they say how old the wrapper leaf is on this. Whereas like on 30, they're like it's a 15-year-old wrapper leaf, and 12 years, it's a 10-year-old wrapper leaf that they age in bourbon barrels for 2 years. I don't think that they say how old the wrapper leaf is on this, but I gotta imagine just the Perdomo standard, it's got to be probably 4, 5, 6, if not 7 years old.
I would think so. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't say, yeah, this cigar's been in the works for 10 years to some degree. Maybe not the idea of the cigar, but that tobacco has been in the works. And the one thing that I would also be curious to know, and I'm assuming they didn't bring this up. So I know, Jason, you remember it. Cole, have you ever smoked the Perdomo, the Cameroon cabinet,
The
the little
cabinet
petite
Cameroon,
Corona?
Yeah.
Yeah, cabinet
they
Cameron.
actually gave us one when I was there, and he
Oh,
was
did
like,
they?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was like, you're never gonna be able to buy these or find them anywhere else. But I
That
guess they have
cigar
like,
is awesome.
it was amazing, yeah. And he told it
Uh,
was they made them so small because they had such a limited amount of that Cameroon to work with, I guess. But yeah,
correct. Yeah.
they did have some left, and they gave us one. It was amazing.
So
Now, are
I
they?
almost wonder if the idea for this didn't stem from the fact that they wanted to do a full-blown Cameroon line, but it wasn't sustainable because they had so little of that tobacco. So instead they decided, hey, let's make our own.
Yeah. And fill me in. Is the Cameroon cabinet no longer available, or is it still available?
I was led to
I
believe when
don't
I was
know.
there that we wouldn't. He was because the way when they gave it to us, he was like, "Yeah, we only have a small amount of these left. You probably won't be able to buy them there. I'm sure there's some shop out there that has like a however old box sitting around of
Yeah.
them." But
Yeah, and I haven't tried to order them in a long time just because the only problem with it is a smaller size. It's funny because like the cigar geeky people that say they don't want to smoke Perdomo, that cigar would blow their minds.
Oh God, yeah.
Especially on that price point too, because I think they're like $6 or $7 retail.
What was the Cameroon cigar that they were making, where that they had that little bit of Cameroon left over to make those? Because that's kind of always, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ethan, but I always felt like that was how I understood that, which was they were making something that was Cameroon, and to not waste Cameroon, there was a little bit left from each like trim, and it was enough to get that very small size done.
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if the cabinet Cameroon was like bigger at one point. From what I was told, this was by the not our Perdomo rep now, but the previous Perdomo rep. He told me that the problem was that the wrapper, like the pieces of Cameroon that they had the access to or had left, were just all so small. And he almost made it seem like it wasn't like a this is leftover stuff, but this was all we had access to, and it was good tobacco, so we went ahead and bought it and did what we could with it. But
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
honestly don't know for sure.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So back on legacy, though, we got sidetracked a little bit, but best cigar they've made, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure there's people, like I said, people who ride and die for champagne, people who ride and die for the 12 year, the 30th, or whatever it may be. They each kind of have their own fan base, if you will. But yeah, this is by by far, in my opinion, the best thing they've ever done.
And I
All
will
right.
say too, I'm gonna toot my own horn real quick.
Woo! Horn tooter.
Ooh. I remember on the podcast saying that I thought this would be our best-selling new cigar this year, and so far in the month or two that we've had it, it's, I mean, everybody loves it. It's not
Everybody
just
loves it.
like it's like the geeky people love it, the people that like stronger stuff love it, the people that like lighter stuff love it, the people that don't like Perdomo love it, the people that do like Perdomo love it. I mean, everybody loves it. They just hit a home run.
Well, and for me to toot your horn, we got it at the trade show. We were lucky enough to grab some. I specifically told Robbie that I would bring one back from him. We were only able to get the couple. So you smoked yours there. You said in that moment, with no hyperbole, like what you're saying now, like it's going to be a hit. It's awesome. It's something like they've never done before, and it's going to be great. And then I was like, oh, God damn it. I didn't get a chance to smoke mine and had to wait for the stuff to come in, and obviously agree with you. But, listeners of this podcast and friends of yours or people you interact with cigars, no, that's not you blowing smoke, literally or figuratively. It's because you're not a Perdomo hater, but Perdomo is not something you're grabbing under normal pretense off of a shelf.
Yeah, correct. And that's not a knock on Perdomo.
No, not by any
It's
stretch.
just it's different strokes for different folks, and I like their cigars. I've talked about that before. 10th Maduro, 20th Maduro, 20th Connecticut. I mean, I like them, but I've smoked probably half a box of shade grown at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
our good friend Opus guy just bought a box the other day.
He's hooked
Like
on them.
he's never bought. I don't know if I've ever seen him buy him a Perdomo, period. And just on recommendation, he bought one, and he bought a box of them the other day. So I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
found
it's
myself having to discipline myself to not just
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
buy up
Mm-hmm.
basically all of it. Yeah, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're there. You're in Managua. You're at the El Camino. Is that what it's called? Is that,
Yeah, the
am I
El
right?
Camino Real, I believe.
Yeah. Also a
I will.
great
I will
Mexican
say.
restaurant in Greensboro. El
That's
Camino
right.
Real.
Initially the FOMO set in when you sent me the picture by the pool drinking Havana Club, Cuban Havana
Yeah,
Club.
that's first thing.
And I was like,
As soon as you walk out of like the customs, there's just like 8, duty free whatever liquor stores right there. Because of course they know they're getting these cigar people come in, and I think myself and probably like 10 other people lined up, all bought a bottle of Havana Club immediately.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember we grabbed something to take, and we'll talk about it in a second. Kind of everybody brings something into the hotel, but I even remembered. I think even in our emailed itinerary from Juan at Perdomo, like, hey, FYI, if you want something like that, right when you step off the airplane, basically, there's a couple duty free liquor stores. Go in and get you something. That way, you don't.
It was like only liquor stores. I don't think
Correct.
there was like no other kind of store when you're leaving the airport. Yeah,
that's right. All right, so you stay there, you're waking up in the morning. Maybe my favorite thing of the trip personally is waiting in the morning to see the bus that also doubles as the bus that the Muppets ride in, the old 70s Thomas built school bus that picks you up and takes you out 4.5 hours roughly. Is that what we're talking about?
It was probably like a 4-hour ride, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, it was definitely a flashback to like 7th grade for sure, because you're sitting on that, so like my knees were digging into the seat in front of me. There's
and they're meeting you.
But I mean,
the folks
they got a cooler full of beer and water in the back. As soon as you get on the bus, Arthur gathers all in the morning. You kind of meet everyone else who's on your trip with you, and then what's a theme for the rest of the trip is he hands you a 3-pack of cigars, like before you get on the bus.
Yep.
So everybody gets on the bus, lights up a cigar. He's like, hey, just ash on the floor. Don't ash out the windows of the bus because it'll like blow back in other people's face. We're all, rolling up the Pan American Highway. I think like smoke blowing out the windows, drinking beers. Everyone's having a good time, getting to know each other. And it's a beautiful drive. I mean, Nicaragua is a beautiful country. You're going up into the mountains.
It's a really nice drive. And the weather that time of the year is great.
Yeah.
Robbie perfect. And I don't know how it was for you, but Robbie and I got lucky where the weather was in the mid 70s probably.
Yeah, it's like
something
77,
like that.
sunny every day. Yeah, I don't think there was no rain the entire time, which I think we'll get into this, but it is specifically, I believe, the drought season when they do these tours because they want to show you the farm and they only grow during the drought.
Correct.
Because they want to control how much
they want
water
to control the water take.
Plants are getting.
That's right. Yeah. So the bus ride, I think you told me this. You got lucky, like Robbie and I did. Robbie and I and at some other people's expenses who got trapped back in the United States because of some storms. Our tour ended up being about 60 to 65% fewer people than were supposed to be on there. So
I think we had like 17 or 18 people, and he was like, my previous tour was like 35.
Yeah, and I think maybe Robbie and I had maybe 12 or 14 or something like that. Nice. Supposed to be like a big pack tour, but so we were lucky enough, like you, to have room to stretch out on the bus. You got a seat to yourself, could roll your window down, put your legs up in the seat, hang an arm over the back and stuff like that. I presume that was the same for you.
Oh yeah. It was. Yeah. I had no issues with the bus whatsoever. I was having a good time for sure. Yeah. They stopped like halfway, go into a little, Nicaraguan gas station, get some local snacks and stuff like that. It was
cool. Clearly a gas station snack stop where that place feels like it was built strictly to service those bus rides because it was the nicest place, on the entire road trip. Sure. You stopped. We had an armed guard that was in the place, asked everybody to come out, and then let all of us go in, held everybody outside of it until we finished up grabbing potato chips and soda pop or whatever you want and got back on the bus.
Yeah, I don't think we had the armed guard, but I will say I thought it was cool, you're going into an actual, functioning Nicaraguan town to stop at that gas station. And everyone was super nice. There was no one trying to hawk sunglasses to me or anything like that. It was cool.
So I have a off the wall question for both of you about this bus ride. So you said it was about 4 hours, right?
Yeah,
with the one stop in the middle. Yep. So recently, Nicaraguan government decided to lower the speed limit on the Pan American Highway to 31 miles an hour.
This is a great point. I kind of forgot about this. Yeah.
How long is that bus ride going to be now?
Like double, probably.
Well, to be fair though. Well, yes, is it going to be longer? We never felt like we were traveling at a very high rate of speed on that bus. True. Like we got.
So I remember you saying that because you got stuck behind
stuck behind like essentially 3 ox carts in the middle of it, and it's there was a couple of areas they may be repaired by now, but there were a couple of areas that looked like the bus could fall off the side of the road. Yes. Chunks of the pavement were missing, but yeah, you get stuck behind an ox cart because it is literally a long straight road with not much give on either side of it, and it runs. We could do a little internet research, but I think the Pan American Highway? Is that what it's referred to?
It's like the main highway for Central America. It goes through all those countries. It
literally runs from like Panama to Mexico, right? Like one straight shot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, and I will say I can understand why they did that speed limit because watching some of the passes that were happening, guys on mopeds passing our school bus with a dump truck coming down the other lane, and they no problem, just zoom right in there. But it's that in itself was entertainment.
Yeah. And it was a game of chicken. Like it's like you're gonna move, no, you're gonna move. It was like no, you're gonna move. And then it's like okay, well, and suddenly somebody's in the ditch. But yeah, it's not a whole lot of wiggle room on that road. But that's a great point. I forgot all about this speed limit change, which I think they put it under the cloak of safety, but there was a whole lot of like
damn commie bastards
conspiracy that it's going to eat up more gas. Obviously, they're an oil producing country or around oil producing countries, and like more potential revenue. And then they were talking. I think Half Wheel wrote about it, or somebody else is like, could this be more expensive cigars? They're using more fuel, it's taking longer to get there. I'm like, geez, oh Pete, if we're raising prices because the speed limit went down. But hey, if it saves some lives on the Pan American Highway, I'm here. I'm pro life here. I'm for it. So You get to Esteli. That's ultimately where the factories are and the farms are, and home to a bunch of
like
factories and a
every
bunch of
Nicaraguan
warehouses
company that pops
that
into
you
your
can
head
think
when you
of
think of
is
Nicaraguan
basically
cigars.
represented there, because you go down, we'll call it Main Street of Esteli, and you pass by My Father, you pass by the AJ stuff and everything
Padron,
like
Drew
that.
Estate,
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you see everybody. And then, when we were talking with Arthur throughout the weekend, he would mention like who else is in town. Like he was going to, when he was there, Nick from Foundation was staying at Nick Perdomo's house, so he was going to stay him and hang out for a little bit. I thought, you don't get to explore Esteli either outside of, the tour stuff that you see just kind of outside the bus and where you're going. Cool looking city, and still Nicaragua, but a much different vibe, in my opinion, than was Managua.
Yeah, definitely. Esteli was really nice. It was a really nice place. I mean, there was a guy on my trip who was manages a store in Florida, and he's like a Cuban American, speaks Spanish. So he actually took his employees that he brought with him. They went out to dinner in Esteli a couple times. Like they went out and explored Esteli and had a great time. No problems.
Okay, gotcha.
Got some great food.
Yeah. All right, so you get in.
I have a history question real quick,
Sure.
Cole, because you're a history guy.
Yes,
I know
sir.
you read a couple books about Nicaragua, and if you don't know the answer to this question, it's okay. But
Just
has Esteli always been just a tobacco growing region, or is there any history behind Esteli? I honestly don't know.
Off the top,
Curious.
I can't say 100% for sure, but I think it was basically Cuban immigrants who came there and kind of identified that region, the soil, the climate, all that kind of stuff. They identified that region as being good for tobacco. So I don't think there was
Okay.
any tobacco growing happening prior to, the Cuban Revolution, basically. I think it took Cuban immigrants coming to Nicaragua and setting up shop to really establish it as a cigar growing city. I'm sure it was agricultural always, because I mean the soil is fantastic there from everything they told us.
And it's got all the trappings of a farming town, like the other things you see. But when you go through there, and telling you this because you'll get there possibly this coming up February. It's a bit like going to the trade show. It's just substitute a warehouse and manufacturing facility for a booth, but it's like you just pass this one, then you pass that one, and you pass this one, you pass that one.
And you pass a lot that you've never heard of. I mean, we passed tons of cigar factories that I had never heard of, and I'd ask Arthur, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, they make stuff, and they sell it to this company, or they sell wrapper leaf to this company." So there's
a lot of that. A lot of these companies that are massive in the business, but we don't do business with them directly. They are contract manufacturers or specifically tobacco growers selling wrapper or selling whatever it may be. But it's if it was anything before, it's not now. It's all 100%.
And I will say,
cigar
a little
related.
off topic, but I was very impressed by the soccer stadium. Did
Just
you drive by the
that.
soccer stadium? Yeah,
I think
it's a city of I want to say less than 100,000 people in Esteli. They've got like a 40,000
massive
soccer stadium.
Really?
Yeah. It,
cool.
And it looks like a professional American sports stadium. Yeah. It's like the biggest thing in town.
Yeah, and I remember trying to kind of get information on them when we were driving by and look it up, and it's a legit squad. And I think it's just like a Nicaraguan professional league. I think it's it's not like Central America, like it's a club of Esteli, kind of
like they're the
Nancy,
Nicaraguan Pro League or
yes, correct, yeah. But you would in your head you would think Nicaraguan professional league. It's like okay, so it'd be a little dirt soccer field. This thing looked like any MLS stadium that you would see in the United States. It was huge. It was red and white, if I remember. Was it like reddish colors? Yeah.
I was gonna say I grew up in Philly. I used to go to Philadelphia Union games. Mm-hmm. The stadium in Esteli was much nicer than even that stadium.
Yeah.
They take it seriously.
Yep. So, and it's not far up the road till you get to El Camino Real, the Campina, if you will, that Perdomo sets everybody up by.
La Campina, something.
La Campina. Oh yeah, La Capita. Yeah, El Camino Real is the one in Managua. My apologies. Great place.
Yeah, it's basically just, I think it's a family. It's a Welsh father who married a Nicaraguan lady, and they have a son, and they just run it as a family. So very like family environment. You don't feel like you're in a resort or a hotel necessarily, anything like that. You feel like you're staying at someone's house, kind of, which
The
was a
daughter
great
too
vibe.
was her daughter as well.
I did not meet the daughter. I met, I think, Gwyn, the son, who was
Yeah, I remember him
super
being
cool
there.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
and the
And
mom
super
cooks all the meals for you, so it's all home
unbelievable
cooked
food.
meals. Yeah, amazing.
Unbelievable food. We're lucky enough as retailers, customers can go on this trip. Customers pay their way, but the retailers get taken care of because they want you down checking out product and everything like that. And you just don't know what to expect when you're going to a place like that. And so breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day at the place brought us back for it. They had an awesome small dining room, if you will, with one long table to sit 30, probably 35, maybe something like that.
Yep.
Would you say?
Yeah.
I guess designed to hold the full tour if everybody's there, with a bar at the end, refrigerator in there, grab as much beer, water. Trying to remember the beer
Yeah.
that I like so much. I tried to see
Tonya. Was it Tonya?
Tonya. Yes,
Yeah.
that's like
It's got
the
the volcano on
national
the
beer of
label.
Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great stuff. Um, and the food was awesome every day. It was. They played some of the hits for people who may not want total, Nicaraguan style or whatever, but it was beef dishes, it was fish dishes, it was chicken dishes, vegetable sides, potatoes, you name it. I mean, they were wonderful cooks.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the other thing I thought was, so I said, we all bought a bottle of Havana Club when we got off the
Mm-hmm.
plane. I don't know if it was like this for you, but when you get into that hotel, it's all built around that central courtyard,
Yep.
and right in the entrance they had this big dining room table, and everyone had done on the previous trips done what we did, bought bottles of liquor that they then didn't finish. So you walk in and there's a table, there's Angel's Envy, $100 bottles of bourbon just sitting there left
Yep.
by previous. So the entire time you're sipping on whatever you want basically in the evenings for free.
Yeah. So to paint a picture for Ethan and everybody else who hadn't been there, it's the rooms themselves, including like the dining room and kitchen, kind of form like a horseshoe shape, with a courtyard right in the middle, and then it's completed with kind of their foyer and open air. The entire courtyard's open air, and when you first walk in, their doors there is that to the right, is where Cole's talk about big table, and they have the big wooden kind of Adirondack style chairs, super comfortable, because you're sitting in them a lot. Let's be honest. Like when you
Yeah.
get back, you've got a ton of time after dinner, and everybody's hanging out there, chatting about the day, talking about their stores.
And they're always bringing out snacks for you.
Bringing out
Yeah.
snacks for everybody, and then that table is just loaded. Like you said, everybody brought something, but the tour before also left everything because they can't take it back with them, I don't think. So I think most people just leave, instead of trying to haul a half a bottle of Havana Club or bourbon or whatever it is. They leave it there for everybody else. So when we were there, Robbie partook, if you will, and
Hard to
had,
believe.
it's hard to believe, his fair share of a few things. Never over late. My guy was always ready to go. But there was some good stuff, and there was something there. I can't remember what it was. It was a bourbon that he was actually excited to try because it was something we couldn't get at the time in North Carolina, and was highly sought after.
Yeah, I mean, when I was there was a bottle of Weller, like Weller 12, sitting on that table.
Oh
So
wow!
yeah,
There you go.
it was
There you
anything you could want pretty much.
go. Mm-hmm. All right, so here's the one thing I'm missing my timeline, and I can't remember when you first get there, because you leave first thing in the morning. You usually get there about lunchtime is when you end up at the Campina.
Yeah.
Did you guys go anywhere the second
No,
half of
I
that
think
very
we got
first
there,
day?
it was like mid-afternoon probably, and
Okay.
we did not do anything that day. No, I think they maybe did like. No, I don't think we did anything. We didn't even do like a classroom session that day. We basically
Well,
got
that's
there.
that's what I was wondering, if you did the classroom session where he had like the seed separator and everything like that, or if
That
that was the
started
next
the
morning.
next morning, but I think
That
the day
started the
that
next
we
morning.
got to La Campina, it was like Arthur gathered us all around, kind of laid down the itinerary for the next few days, and then it was just relaxing, hanging out,
Yeah.
smoking cigars. I think when we got off the bus, they gave us another 3-pack of cigars. From all the free cigars I got on that, I think I brought back like 12 that I hadn't
Oh
smoked when
yeah,
I was
there's
there.
just so
And I was
many. You
smoking
can't
like
you
4
can't smoke
cigars a
them
day.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't smoke them all. It's great. All right, so we'll jump to the next morning. You get up, you have breakfast, and the first thing, kind of like on the tour that Arthur wants to do, is that classroom session.
Yes.
So, kind of take us in there a little bit. Is what you guys did?
Yeah, so for us, the classroom session, that first classroom session, they start off with basically all like the agricultural side of it. So, I mean, a lot of cool information. They give you a little notebook right here. I've probably got like 10 pages in here just filled with notes from that first classroom session. Tons of stuff I didn't know. I had never seen a tobacco seed before. So they bring around tobacco seeds, put some tobacco seeds in your hand. They're tiny, tiny little
The
seeds.
smallest seed
Yeah, like a
that I've
grain of salt,
personally seen.
basically.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
Yep.
I have in my notes, but it's like one seed pod on a tobacco plant holds like 1,200 seeds or something like that. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
ridiculous amount of seeds. But they show you,
Yep.
they show you the seeds. They show you the machine they use to separate the seeds from the chaff. Basically, it was like cool old school sorting machine. They kind of give you a little active demonstration of that. And then yeah, he runs through a slideshow that just breaks down, how they test the soil content, the difference in the soils between Esteli, Condega, and Jalapa. So they really get into a lot of like the nitty gritty technical side of the agriculture on that first classroom experience, which I thought was really cool because that was all stuff that I really either knew a very little about or didn't know anything about at all. So yeah, they definitely want to like impress upon you the science basically that
For
goes into
sure.
it.
And it's with this, I guess we call it a seed separator. Is that what it would be?
Yeah, the little seed
Uh,
separator machine, and then they show you they have a how they plant the seedlings into their
yep.
little pots. Basically, they have like a little, I think it was like a pneumatic like
Mm-hmm.
seed drill, basically. So
Yeah, that held it in place, and then,
mm-hmm.
but it's your first look at equipment that I found very interesting. It's very technologically sound, but it's also very sort of kind of primitive.
Yeah, it's very old
It,
school.
it's very old school,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if I remember Arthur telling me this or kind of talking about it, the reason behind that is they keep it simple like that because it's easy to repair and fix in Nicaragua, right? You can get the parts and pieces. If too much of their stuff is relied on super high tech modern computer
Yeah,
technology, well, a lot of stuff is. Um, it can be hard for them in that country to get those kind of things taken care of, whether it's tech, repair people, or parts, or whatever it is. So, very useful and technologically forward pieces of equipment, but just done in a simplistic,
yeah.
straightforward, easy to manipulate kind of fashion.
And there's no like real automation at all. The entire like I think honestly that the seed separator machine and the little seed drill that they showed us that was like the most high tech pieces of equipment I saw the entire time. Like
Yeah,
everything
so
else after that is done by hand on some level. Like
yeah,
another thing they told us was on their farms there in Esteli, the soil's so soft they can't even use tractors to tow planters. So they actually have guys out there working oxen in the field to
yep.
toil to plow the soil, and then they go out there and they plant those tiny little seedlings by hand after they've spent time in the nursery. So everything is done by hand to some level, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and again, we can't. I haven't been to others yet, but so can't speak to them. But certainly not at Perdomo are you going to find any robotic arm that's
No,
automatically picking up bales and rotating them. I'd be curious to see some others that we think are, um, advanced manufacturers if they utilize some of those things or not. But it is still very much a handcrafted product that you get when you're buying cigars, certainly from Perdomo.
oh yeah, yes,
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So obviously, one of the things that makes Nicaraguan soil so sought after for tobacco is it's very volcanic, which makes it very nutrient rich. But when we talk about tobacco in the stores and stuff, I can tell you the difference between what Esteli and Jalapa and Condega and Ometep tobacco tastes like, but what did they say, if anything, were the differences between the growing regions? Like, was it soil composition? Was it climate? Was it elevation?
Yeah, so they did. They gave us a. So I have it right here. Actually, they said Esteli is a heavier soil, a much heavier soil, basically than the other two regions that they talked about, which were Jalapa and Condega. More volcanic content in that soil, I believe, but essentially Esteli is where they're getting all the spice from, where they're getting all that full body tobacco from. And then they said that Jalapa and Condega tobacco, I think, is more clay loam in the
Hmm.
soil,
Yep.
and that's where you're getting like your sweeter, kind of more toasty, less peppery flavors, basically.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because I think anytime we've talked about tobacco or anyone, like Esteli's known for spice, Jalapa's known for sweetness, Condega's known more for like viso seco burning, right? Ometep
Yep.
has a very unique flavor, but that's because of elevation, I would assume, anyways. Um, but I did not realize that the soil in Esteli was heavier. That's interesting.
Yeah, I have my notes here. I didn't write down any of the technical terms. I just have Esteli, heavy soil, thick leaves, strong. So that was
I
that was
like it.
what they told. Yeah.
There
I
you go.
like it.
There you go. All right, so we wrap up classroom session, and then we're getting on the bus and headed to the farm, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, so as soon as you get done with that classroom session, you get on the bus and they took us to Finca Natalie, which
Mm-hmm.
is their most prestigious farm. That's where they grew the hybrid leaves, I believe, for the legacy. And yeah, it's a beautiful farm. It's kind of down in a valley. You've got like mountains going up on either side. They stop you. There's like a little overlook that they stop
Yeah,
at.
yep.
Everyone gets out. You all take a picture together with Arthur, but
And
very
it's a
pastoral landscape. Very beautiful area. Yeah.
it's a cool view from where you talk about where you take that picture because, like you said, it is down in this valley, and as you're coming in, you're still up on the upper rim uh, of the ridges when you're coming in, so you get to look down and you can see the fields, and we'll talk about it how each one is set up from stuff that's just been planted to stuff that's getting ready to be harvested.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of see that progression as the fields move along. It's a really cool view, and you get that you know you get that Central American, South American kind of mountainous vibe that you see in movies, right? You
Yes.
part of you like can hear a helicopter from a like a action movie or something like that coming over, like waiting
Oh
for
yeah,
like
I'd
people to
heard
jump
like
out
the
and stuff like that.
Narcos theme song started playing in
Correct.
my
Yeah,
set in my
that's the
head.
kind of thing that you think you're going to hear. That's what you're playing in your head because it just, I mean, it looks something out of Central Casting. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, from there, so after you stop at that little overlook, everyone takes your picture. You can see the whole operation from up there. Then they load you on to like they have a tractor that's towing these trailers with seats, and they take you up and down the rows of tobacco. We saw, some of the seedlings that had just been planted. We saw a
Yep.
field that was still being plowed for seedlings to be planted in, which I thought was really cool because it's a guy out there with, two oxen.
With two oxen. Yeah.
Yeah, and Arthur was like, "Hey guys, just be quiet for a second and listen to this guy as he talks to the oxen." So he's, going through this field with an old wooden plow, talking to these oxen, and they obviously have some kind of bond with this guy, where they're listening to him plowing a perfect line through this field. And we saw some of the ladies coming out there planting the little seedlings by hand in the plowed soil. And then right on the other side, they had full grown plants that were being primed, like right on the other side of, the field where the seedlings are. So
Yep.
as you're on that tractor going through the fields, you're seeing everything basically. And they also, before that, I forgot to mention, they take you to one of their nurseries,
Yep.
which they have right there next to the field where all the seedlings are growing for a certain amount of time. I forget how long, but it's all right there. It's all within 100, 200 yards of each other. Seedlings going to the field, and then yeah, they got the curing barn, which is the last thing you see at the farm, is right there next to the field as well.
Yeah. And circling back a little bit, it's kind of an important point when you're talking about the guys and the oxen. is this is a cool tour. It's awesome to go on. But it's easy to forget that we're very much like they're not this is not a museum or like a demonstration. Like
No.
we're visiting while they're working.
Yeah.
Like these guys and gals are trying to get work done.
Yes.
They appreciate seeing you, but stay the fuck out of my way.
I was gonna say
I got these two oxens, man. Like
I've been on some distillery tours before. This is the only cigar tour I've done, but you do some tours where they're kind of Disneyfied. You know, it's like they show you a museum. They show you like very kind of set piece.
Yeah, stuff that's already set up and demonstrated for you
Perdomo
specifically.
was not like that. Like everything you're seeing is actively, that's work being done to go into the final product. It's not set up just for your viewing, basically.
No, and you're very much, and we'll talk about that when we get into the next day when we get into the rolling room, which is I think where that area most particularly, like you're definitely got to be mindful that you are there for they're working while you're there. So you're touring the fields, I'll kind of spoil the rest of the story, but my favorite part of the tour was being out on the fields because it was just the weather was perfect. Had it poured rain or something like that, I may think differently because I loved every part of it. But again, I was with Mr. Botany himself, Mr. Robbie Pate, who's our resident botanist, our resident green thumb. Right. He is a plant guy. If he is nothing else, that man is a plant guy. He loves plants, which is awesome. Like he was educated in everything like that. So he was very, very much interested in the plant structure, how they were doing it. He was full of questions for the guys, and he was investigating plants. He's lifting leaves up, checking underneath, and that kind of thing, looking under the hood, if you will. So yeah, I think he would back up. That was probably his favorite part as well. But just with the views, the landscape, and everything like that, it just couldn't be beat for me. So yeah, you got dropped off. Check the nursery. We're going through the fields, and if I remember that, still in that day, we're going into some of the barns. Correct?
Yeah. So the last thing we did at Fink and Natalie was go into one of the curing barns, and they showed us again all the steps that go into that. They had the ladies tying the bundles that then go onto those sticks that are lifted up into the curing barns to dry. And I thought that was really cool because you got guys climbing up there with these, I forget the type of, it's a special type of wood that they use in the curing barns. I forget what it is, but they're climbing up like 4 stories high in these barns, with bundles full of tobacco over their shoulder, hanging them up top in these barns. Again, it's a very,
important to know.
Hand.
Yeah. Important to know. None of that flies in the United States, man. OSHA would be all over you from a guy with nothing attached to him climbing up the outside of a barn with stuff on his shoulder and putting it up there. Now, I'm trying to remember, were those the same barns where they were controlling the humidity with the charcoal?
Yeah, so they had a barn that was basically split into 2 sections. They had one section where there were no fires lit. Okay. And then on the other side, they were like, all right, we're just going to go in here for 1 second because it's full of smoke. And then, it's hot, basically.
Yep.
The other barn was, they have tiny little, charcoal fires, basically, like every 20 feet or something like that to raise the heat in there and,
and
process a little bit faster.
For Ethan and for anybody, we're talking just a little depression in the dirt floor, right? Just the size of a large mixing bowl that they dug a little hole down, and they're lighting. I believe they have these fires started outside of the barn where they're charring up wood, and then they're bringing them in and putting them in these piles and everything like that. And you're going to have to help me, Cole, because I can't remember the overall purpose of them. Or Ethan, you may know actually what the purpose of them is.
I think it was to increase the heat, lower the humidity, because ultimately
I definitely thought there was a humidity control.
Yeah, they're drying
piece
and
of that.
curing those tobacco.
They're trying to keep it as dry as possible.
So
that's
just a time-honored way, basically, to kind of speed up that process a little bit, make sure they get the desired, curing process that they want.
Yeah, I saw a picture. I don't know if you sent it to me, Cole, or Jason sent it to me of those fires and the smoke in the room. And it's so fascinating to me because, fire cured tobacco is a legitimate kind of tobacco. We don't really see it in cigars other than really Drew Estate and like Toscano. See it more in pipe tobacco, but it's fascinating to me that smoke doesn't impart much, if any, flavor into the tobacco.
Yeah. With fire, do they use like a specific wood with fire cured tobacco? Do you know, or is it just
Boy,
charcoal?
it reminds me of hickory, but I have no earthly
Yeah.
idea. I mean,
I,
because fire cured tobacco, I can't stand it. I mean, it tastes like you're licking a campfire.
yeah.
And
Um,
and on that same vein, it does not have that vibe when you go in there.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's got to be in a particular, obviously maybe just longer over time, the wood or how it's done.
And I think he said they only light the fires like everything is on a specific like timetable basically. So they only light those fires I think like when it's close to being cured. So it's not like they're in there in that smoke for the entire time they're in the curing
Right.
barn.
And it also, I think, because they're starting the fires like somewhere else, right? Like they're keeping this constant. They're getting the wood to coal, basically, that kind of like that charcoal vibe, if you know what
Yeah.
I'm
And
saying.
that's why I asked about the
And
wood
they're
because I think
bringing it
maybe
in.
charcoal is a little more neutral, so it's
I
like
think
just a
that, yes, yeah,
neutral kind of
yeah,
heat. It's not giving off like a specific flavor like a
yeah. So you're not
hickory
getting
or
into like
apple wood or something like that.
Yeah, so you're a barbecue guy. It's like that smoke that initially comes off of your stuff is what permeates. You're not getting that in there because they're not really necessarily like lighting it and starting the fire in there versus bringing hot coals that are embered
yeah, no,
and charcoal down in there.
yeah, that makes sense because I mean, like relating it back to barbecue, when you're making a fire, like with the way they do it in Texas, they're starting fires and they're adding coals to the pits, but then they're adding in post oak or hickory
Yep.
to get the smoke flavor into the barbecue. So that makes sense.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's any wood involved. It's just hot
Just
coals.
coals.
Yeah. Mm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's wild to see because you just think in your head, man, we're introducing fire into an old barn. I mean, they're solid structures and they're awesome. They're exactly what you get to see a lot of what you hoped in kind of like if you pictured one of these tours in your head, like I want to see old tobacco barns with it hanging up there and everything like that. You are going to get to see that. It does not disappoint from that aspect of it for sure.
I will say something I first noticed there that I noticed throughout the trip as well was, in my experience, the workers were happy to see us. They wanted to pose with for pictures, holding the priming leaves. They wanted to
Yep.
pose for there were guys coming up to me trying to talk to me. It was kind of hard because obviously the language barrier, but it's the workers seemed like they very happy to see you and
Yeah.
you know,
Very, very respectful, very
mhm.
friendly. And again, they do these tours January and February every year. So I think there's
Yeah,
a time of
but
the year
basically,
that
like you don't feel like you're
they expect it.
intruding on them.
No,
It's like
no.
they're like, heck yeah, I want to show you what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. No, they'll put. Yeah, when Arthur's talking about something, uh, there's somebody who's tantamount to like a shift manager or whatever it may be. They're highlighting some of the things that he's talking about, pulling things down for you to see. They're very much in on it and are of the know of what's going on. So, all right, we come out of that barn. That's kind of at least as far as the factory tour portion kind of wraps up day one, right?
For us, that was the first half of day one. So
First half of day one.
they
Okay,
took
so you
us
go
to the
back for
farm.
lunch.
We went back for lunch,
Okay.
and then from there you take your first bus ride to their actual factory. So
Okay.
on
All right.
that first day after lunch, we went, and the first thing they showed us was their fermentation rooms, the pilons. So
Okay.
they took us up into those rooms where they're building and rebuilding the pilons for the cigar tobacco to ferment. Which I think we talked about this. You had a similar experience, but they warn you before you go into those fermentation rooms. They're like, it's going to be hard to breathe in here.
It's intense, man.
It's crazy.
Intense.
Within like
It's
30,
ammonia.
yeah.
Yes.
I asked Arthur, he was like, it's not ammonia, it's nitrates. I don't,
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember him saying that too. It's a common misconception because the smell that's what you feel like you're smelling.
It smells
but
like
it's not.
ammonia for sure.
It smells like ammonia, but it's not actually ammonia.
The nitrates,
it's the nitrates
being released.
from this being released from it. Yeah.
But you go up into that fermentation. So they have them separated by the growing region. So they have different fermentation rooms for Esteli and Jalapa. I'm sure they have different ones for Condega and the other places too. But the only ones they took us to were the Esteli and Jalapa. And yeah, he was like, it's going to be rough in there. And within a minute, everyone's coughing. It's burning your eyes, burning your throat. It's
even the most seasoned person. There's plenty of people who had been on our trip. It was their fourth or fifth time. It still hits them. It hits Arthur. Like he's probably in there all the time when he is down there, and he's coughing. He's not as bad. Like I'm sure he's developed some sort of used to it, but.
And then you see all the Nicaraguan guys in there who are in there like 8 hours a day, just like laughing at you.
They're like, y'all are a bunch of pussies.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're like, what's up, man? Please help me. And I mean, your first instinct when you go in there is to take a deep breath because it catches you off guard, and then you take this huge deep breath. Then it's over. You're like, oh. Then you just can't get that deep breath that you want to take to kind of reset yourself.
But I would say as intense and rough as it was in there, that was going into those fermentation rooms. That's kind of where it started to click for me. Like, oh, these are like the flavors and aromas that I'm experiencing when I smoke a Perdomo cigar. That's where you start to experience that a little bit. Like, I don't know if they did this for you, but they had some of the fresh bundles from the curing barns in the farm, and they like held them up to our face, and they were like, put your face deep in there and just take like a huge breath.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you're like, oh man, like I'm tasting, that classic Perdomo filler blend, basically.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, that was another cool room, but yeah, you can't, the intensity of that room can't be understated at all. Like no matter what you think of it, you're like, it hits you like a ton of bricks and it shows you what's going on. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's interesting. You two can tell me if this is somewhat what you experienced. A cigar manufacturer once told me that good tobacco smells like cat piss, shit, and chocolate. Is that what you're getting?
I would say so.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that room, you definitely hit the cat piss version of it right there when you come in there. And I think they all come together as you move down the line of the things you're doing. You're going to get the shit version of it as you move it farther down the line. And then as it's, coming to completion, you're getting that full, but yeah, absolutely the kind of vibe you're going to get. But we talk about it all the time. Like it's, if it smells funky, usually means it's pretty damn good. There's not a whole lot that's been doctored to it.
And I thought another cool thing about that room, like just seeing the pilones, and then the guy that was with us was walking around with one of those like laser temperature guns.
Yep.
And I mean, he would like lift up a thing of bundles and like point his gun into the center of the pilone. It'd be like 160 degrees in the middle or something like that. That's all just natural heat from that. The friction and the weight of those pilones.
The weight and the water and everything like that. And you got guys got in water, and then they're checking those temperatures and if it needs to be rotated, and then brought from the bottom up to the top, all done, with some science there, checking the temperatures, knowing what the process is. But I feel like there's definitely, definitely a craftsman's eye piece of it as well. Like doing the eye test, doing the smell test for them to know where things are at. They've been doing it. They're so good at what they're doing. They've been doing it for so
years.
long that they can,
And that's another theme I noticed was, I mean, the guy who was in charge of that fermentation room, every time we would go to a new part of the factory, Arthur would be like, hey, how long have you been with us? And everyone was like 20 years, 25 years. They've all been doing it for decades. So it's second nature to those guys who are in charge of those aspects.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fascinating to me, the similarities, and maybe it's just because it's on my mind right now, of this and good barbecue, right? Like when you talk about good barbecue down in Texas, you talk about what's the old lady's name? I can't remember her name, but like she cooks based on the feel of the grill.
Yeah.
Right? Like she puts her hand on the grill and knows if it's at the right temperature, or if it's a little too hot, or if it's a little too cold, just because she's been doing it for so long that she doesn't need, like, yes, obviously they need the temperature guns because you can't tell the temperature of the pilons just, by feel necessarily, but like they know when to rotate. They know like what they're looking for, just like true masters of the craft do in barbecue. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Masters of the craft is a good word for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
for sure. Easy connection to make, just because, like you said, they're doing it with this stuff, but there is that level of, hey, this is a little bit different, so we have to control it differently for this particular batch than that one. Because I think just with the way it's done, there's no way for them to have everything at the exact same moment be the exact same thing, right? It's just there's too many natural outside factors interrupting it for it to be every one of them to be controlled in the exact same way. So, you may have pilons right there that are next to two that went in at the same time, but the other ones need to be rotated first or earlier or later. That one needs to sit a little bit longer. And I think that's very much done by feel. Obviously, like you said, temperature checking and everything, but you know, sometimes the brisket's got to sit for another hour, right? It's got to stay
Right.
wrapped up or something like that.
Right.
And I feel like the temperature gun was a lot for our benefit too. I forget the guy's
To
name
show
who
you
was in
what it
charge
was.
of
Yeah.
that room.
Yep.
But
Like, hey, yeah, we can visually see like, oh, it's 135 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever it may be.
yeah.
Well, and it's important too, because like if you don't keep check on that stuff, you can burn your place
Yeah, it can
down.
catch
I mean,
on
those
fire.
pilons can
Yeah.
catch on fire. I mean, that 106
Absolutely.
degrees is not cool by any stretch. You let it get too hot with all the other chemicals that are coming out of that tobacco, the thing can go up in fire. I mean, it's old, right? I mean,
Yep.
they could be in a world of hurt if they didn't know what they were doing to keep an eye on it.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've gone through. You've escaped that room and you can breathe easily again. Where we
Yeah.
remind me
So
where we're
from
going after
there,
that.
they took us downstairs. Right. So that was an upstairs room in like
Yep.
a big warehouse.
Yep.
And then they took us downstairs, and right below that, they have the grading and sorting for the tobacco that has finished being fermented in the pilons.
Yep.
So they had a huge room, probably like 80 workers in there standing around tables, and they're all just going through those leaves of tobacco, looking at them visually, and then basically grading them based on how good they look, what they're looking for in their product, basically. And
Yeah,
that
and
I was saying
very
that's
much.
what he told us. That's how it's decided, basically. If a filler, because everything we were seeing in those rooms was filler. So he
Yep.
was like, this grading process, we're deciding whether or not this particular leaf is going to be good for this blend or is going to be good for longer aging, whether it has any flaws or anything like that. And that's all done by just by evaluation, basically.
Yep.
And then from
And
there was my favorite part of the trip personally, which was right after that we met Aristides, who
and
was
he is down in that room, right?
yeah, that is
That
I think he's now in
is
charge of
that
that room.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know of him, but and he knows a little bit. But for people listening and Ethan himself, fill us in on our. He's kind of it's the man, the myth, the
Yeah, it's
legend
like
at Perdomo.
meeting the Babe Ruth of cigars,
That's
basically. I
right.
mean, he's 92 years old. Uh, he's worked in the Cuban. He's Cuban, so he worked in the Cuban tobacco industry from when he was 15 years old. His father was a farmer, so his father grew tobacco in Cuba. He worked in the Cuban industry, I think, up until like it was like 65 years or something like that he worked in Cuba, and then left Cuba, came to Nicaragua. Perdomo basically found out about this guy, approached him, and was like, "Hey, do you want to come work for us?" And he was like, "Sure." And I think they were like, we thought we'd maybe get like 4 years out of him because he was like 70, almost 80, I think, when he started working for them, and he's been doing it
Yeah.
for 15, 20 years with them. But yeah, I mean, just a fascinating guy. He told us stories about growing up in Cuba, hand rolling cigars on his dad's farm. His dad didn't want him to smoke cigars, so he would have to do it secretly. He showed us how he used to do a farmer's rolled cigar. He'd roll it up on his pant leg. But I mean, just like a wealth of experience and knowledge. I can't imagine there's too many guys left like that out there who have a lifetime of experience like that. So
No, and he did for us, and I think he did the same for you. rolled it. He hand rolled or finished rolling. Well, they didn't finish rolling. Like rolled it from a bunch.
He rolled
right?
he called it a
farm.
farmer's cigar, but he rolled he bunched it, he put the binder on, and he put the wrapper on, and then
Yep, all right then and there, ready to go. Now
took him probably 2 minutes.
I have mine still 3 years later in my humidor. It's at the shop up in my humidor upstairs. And I have not smoked it yet. Did you smoke yours, Cole?
I smoked mine almost immediately.
Okay, gotcha. Some people did, some people didn't.
He rolled one and he gave it to someone in the group, and then he opened a box and he's like, I rolled these earlier, and you could tell it's the same cigar, and he passed it out. And then Aristas himself, he just bit the end off, lit one up, and I was like, well, shoot, man, if I want to smoke with Aristas, so I lit mine up, got some of that excellent Cuban coffee that they keep you.
So that was the other thing we got, the Cuban coffee,
Yeah, like every time you stop for 5 minutes, they come out with a tray of just like delicious Cuban coffee. So I was like, this is the perfect environment for me to enjoy this cigar, I think. And it was so incredible.
Good.
Yeah.
It's so good and will light your insides on fire from the caffeine jolt immediately. I mean, it's like a, just like you're like, it's incredible. I've never made Cuban coffee myself. I don't know how. I know it's a process. I've got to have it from them. And when I was in Miami a few years ago, I was with Terrence at the Aganorsa place, and all their warehouse workers are making it. It's got to be how they get. I mean, if you're drinking that consistently, you just can't stop. Like, it gives you such a jolt that your body's going to get used to that. And I think they're having 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe more of these things, because it's a small shot, if you will, basically, of that Cuban espresso. Yeah. And man, it's going to get you white. You're going to crash. You're going to crash afterwards.
Yeah, that was a cigar, yes. And I was going to say that they're keeping you so well supplied with cigars throughout this entire thing. And obviously you want to smoke a cigar the whole time, because you can smoke pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and there's no objection to you smoking anywhere. Yeah,
we had a few casualties from that. So anyone who's going on this trip in the future, just remember, think about how many cigars you normally smoke versus, how many you're smoking there. Because, I mean, that first morning on the farm after that classroom session where they give you, a 3-pack of, 10th anniversary, we had some people, throwing up out there in the fields thinking that.
If you're not a person who occasionally has 3 or 4 or more cigars in a day, maybe because of an event or whatever it may be, and you have a cigar a week or something like that, if you're going to partake with everybody doing that, you better hold on, because you're going to get, it's going to be in your system for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, meeting Aristas, that was my favorite part, just because, I mean, so you're meeting a living piece of cigar industry history. I thought that was just an incrable experience. And the cigar he rolled, I recommend you smoke that cigar, man.
I think I will. Yeah. I think I will. He's also known to be a ladies' man, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, I think they said his oldest daughter was 65 years old. His youngest daughter is 14.
Yeah.
So he
had a kid when he was 78 years old or something like that.
Well, I feel like he's married to somebody who works there.
Does that sound right? He's married to someone who works in the factory who is much younger than him, without a doubt.
Yeah, much younger. Yeah. She may be in her 40s or something.
But I mean, for 92 years old, this guy, it's he's not getting walking around with a walker or anything. I feel like he could go, work a shift anywhere in the factory and be totally fine. I mean, he seems
he's walking representation. Why, you don't need to retire, man. You just keep it going.
And his line to us was, he was like, I've had to cut back on how many cigars I smoke, because of my old age. He was like, I used to smoke 25 cigars a day. And he's like, I smoke 17 now.
Oh my God.
Insane.
So we come out of the sorting room, and like you said, everybody's doing it by the piece, naturally doing it. I feel like that's where that full day wraps up, or am I wrong in that?
Meeting Aristas was the last thing for that day. Yeah, okay. After that, you get back on the bus, and they take you back to the hotel, which everything is 10 minutes away from each other.
Yeah, everything's super close. You're back on the bus, pull back in there. So we're through our first full day of doing things, day and a half or whatever it was. So you've heard that so far, Ethan. Anything that you're curious about through those first couple?
No, I've asked my questions. I mean, it's you paint a good picture, Cole. And I've talked to Jason and Robbie about it, and Eric and David about it when they went. So
Oh,
I just
that's
want to
right.
go
I
see
forgot
it.
to do. Yep.
I just want to go
Yep.
see it.
It's well worth
Yep.
it for sure. And I'll
Yep.
say, because I said it earlier, I recommend any cigar smoker do this. Our trip was less than half industry, like retail people. It was a lot of people, out there taking their own vacation time to go down and
Yeah.
have this
Yep.
experience. And they're just,
Yep.
regulars at a shop or people interested in cigars.
Yeah, we had probably close to an even split of retailers to retailers customers. I think it would have been more customers if had the rest of the tour been able to make it, because I think one particular store out of Texas, I think they were Arkansas, was bringing like 10 or 11 people, and like 8 of those I think were their kind of VIP customers, if you will. We had retailer out of the Northeast, a big retailer out of the Northeast, and most of their employees who hadn't been on a trip yet were there. A big retailer out of Alabama, who we know a little bit, was there with mainly employees and a couple of customers. We did have one lady who she worked for this company out of the Northeast. They're based out of Maine, but he's probably got a dozen stores, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, that kind of thing. And he does cigars, but he's also got either more like larger versions of what we know as like Charlie's tobacco, right? Something like that. So she pretty much like worked and ran in like the cigarette retail piece, but she wanted to go on the tour. She literally had never smoked a cigar in her life. And she was on the tour and finally got her to smoke a cigar. She was probably in her 80s. She was in love with Arthur, want him to take her home and do as he would with her. But she finally smoked a cigar, maybe the second to last day or whatever. And it was hilarious because she smoked it like a cigarette and just was like dragging on that sucker like crazy, coughing and everything like that. So it was a good mix of people who were everybody though was very much interested in the process and
And I thought it was
respectful
really
of
cool
it.
to meet retailers from different markets like that. Like that's
Yeah, for
something
sure.
I've never really been able to experience. So like just talking to, there are people from Texas, Florida, a couple other places. But yeah, just hearing what it's like in their local market, what their stores like, what their customers are like, kind of getting that context, I thought was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, Robbie and I were able to talk with both the main retailers that were there, and specifically Robin, I believe was her name, who ran the cigar room in Alabama, one of his stores, and kind of we were able to talk about a little bit about like what we carry versus what they carry, what they do, what brands do well in their stores versus the others. There was the common thread that Perdomo did very well in everybody's humidor that was there, but we had we talked up foundation because we were still, when Robbie and I were there, we were still kind of really building foundation. And, the other stores, one didn't kind of even really know who foundation was. The other was like, we don't really do well with it. Nobody kind of knows about it yet or anything like that. So it was interesting because, again, the one in Alabama, we shared sales reps for a good chunk of our
Yeah, I found that as well.
brands.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of, you have Mark from Esteban who does really well in the Alabama store, and he talks about them when we see him and stuff like that. So it was cool to have those conversations about what does or doesn't do well, or what we're into, or or maybe try something new that they're doing that they're having a lot of success with. So it was really cool. So you're back in there. I assume another great dinner, hanging out. Robbie and I learned dominoes while we were there. They had a cool couple of dominoes tables set up, and we're able to get legitimately taught by somebody who knew how to play dominoes that was on the tour. We were just making up the rules. We're like, this game's not hard. She's like, well, you're not playing it right. So like, sorry, so it was a lot of fun and hanging out. My only gripe with the Campina was the pillow situation. I don't require super fluffy pillows by any stretch of the imagination. I can make it up, but we did have to roll our towels up and our dirty clothes up underneath our pillows to get a little bit of elevation.
Ooh. I didn't run into that issue. I lucked out. I got a everyone else was like paired up with someone. I got a room to myself, which was pretty sweet.
Oh, well,
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, Ethan.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah. The gentleman in our middle here is directly gave you that single room, man.
Only thing that happened to me, my AC unit in my room like froze over and leaked everywhere, soaked my La Colonia shirts. So if you see any pictures of me from Nicaragua, I usually have an Eagle shirt on. Like all my pictures.
Go Birds.
Birds.
Go Birds, baby. The evenings at the hotel were, I thought it was cool that Arthur would hang out and smoke a cigar with us like every night too. That was because you can kind of debrief with him at the end of the day, ask any questions that didn't get answered, get his insight, which is obviously very valuable. So that was a cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah, that's something that certainly can't go without mentioning. It's like he was, not only is he just a wealth of knowledge, given how long he's been and how involved he is with and where he is at in the company, but his willingness to do that was great. Like he hung out with us basically until he was ready to go back to wherever he was staying and just go to bed and then come back the next day.
Yep.
But any questions you had, and everybody did have good ones, bad ones, whatever you want. He'd sit there, he'd answer, or, he'd do, some debunking if people had, some preconceived notions of certain things or whatever it is. But yeah, every night and every morning he was more than willing. So it was great. All right. So we're waking up for, I guess,
day 2 of the official tour, day 3 of the trip. Yeah.
Right. And it's the final day, right? There's nothing, the next day is travel day, right? Am I right?
I think so. I can't remember I think that day, that is the final day. I just can't remember if we did the box factory. No, I think we did the box factory that afternoon. So yeah, that would be the final
in the afternoon of that one. All right, so we get up, we're back out and headed towards the factory, right?
Yeah, so get on the bus, go right back to the factory where you were for the end of the previous day. And then the first thing that they showed us that morning when we got there was the barrel aging room.
Yep.
So we went into, you go in this room, it's barrels, bourbon barrels from all the distilleries that you recognize. I saw Woodford, I think I saw like Heaven Hill or something like that. So they're buying all these used, American bourbon barrels that they're then aging these bundles of fermented tobacco in. And I don't know if they showed you this, Jason, but did they show you that giant like wheel going around that was like, they would tie the bundles of tobacco to like this giant wheel, and it would just like spin and spin in this room. And I think it was a final process before they put it in the barrels to control the moisture a little bit more, I think. But that was cool. I thought that was like a cool piece of equipment. You're just in this huge room with like tobacco leaves spinning all over the place around you.
And again, another one of those pieces of equipment that very much served a purpose, but very, if I remember correctly, very rudimentary. Big wooden and metal kind of framed wheel, motors on each end.
Feels like a 19th century piece of farming equipment.
Basically. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And I want to say one thing I forgot about the day before was, so the Esteli fermentation room was so spicy, so intense. When you walk in there, one of the other things they did was took us into the Jalapa fermentation room, and it's like a world of difference. It's still a little intense, but you're getting a lot more of those like sweet aromas, those
much sweeter
aromas.
Vibe in there. Yep.
So that was something that really showed you the difference, I think, between what those different soil conditions are producing in terms of the tobacco. But yeah, so the first thing that morning they showed us the bourbon barrel aging room. They had a bunch of the barrels open for us to walk up to, put our faces in, smell the tobacco in there. It smelled fantastic. And then from there, I believe, is when we went to the actual rolling room for the first time, which was second to Aristidez, my favorite part of the trip as well.
Super cool. You're in the rolling room. You kind of, it's almost like layered, if you will, at the factory, where the higher you go, the more the finished the product is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like kind of like lower level, we're separating, and then the next level, we're I'm trying to think. You remind me, Cole. There was a room you went in, and this may have been on the day, maybe in the sorting and separating, or it may have just been sorting versus the separation. I don't know if there's really a difference, but there was a room you went in where it was an enclosed room, not like the big bottom room where Risa Dad was, where there was a ton of people in there and they were sorting stuff.
Yeah, so they walked us into the rolling room first, and that was really cool because when you walk in, all the the rollers, bang their molds on the table, kind of like as a round of applause for the retailers and customers coming in, a little show of appreciation, which was very cool. And then they took us, before we really watched anyone roll cigars, they took us to the back of that room. They had a separate room where one group of people were deveining the tobacco leaves. So they had these guys with these machines that looked like they're from like the 1920s, and they're basically like putting a tobacco leaf through this machine that takes the veins out. And then they also had another room where they, I think, were sorting the leaves again, just for the different vitola of cigar, basically, that they were going to be used to roll. So they're sorting them more so by like size. They've already been graded, but then they're just sorting them by size to then be sent out to the tables, to be rolled into whatever the finished product is. So they showed us those two things first, and then they took us out to the rolling room itself. Showed us a lady who was rolling some torpedoes. And I mean, that whole experience was incredible as well, because a lot of, like, one of the things I learned there is the bunchers and the roll. Like, if a roller doesn't show up to work or is sick or something, you can't just be like, oh well, here's another buncher to work with you for today. Those people have been paired together for years. Like, they learn, each other's ins and outs. Arthur was telling us there's a lot of cases where, they get married, basically. Like, they're the roller and a bunch of, because they're working so closely together, and it's all done by feel, all done by hand. So they kind of have to like intimately know how each other works. Which was very cool. But yeah, getting to see the actual cigars being rolled was very impressive.
Yeah, and when you're in that rolling room, one of the things I was really impressed too, it goes into the consistency that is Perdomo cigars, is the redundancy and then the quality control. So you have they work in pairs. You have the buncher and the roller, but the buncher's putting them into molds. They're bunching and putting them into molds, and they're getting pressed down to be secured. But then they're taken from there to the draw room. Am I correct in that? Yeah, the draw test room.
The buncher creates the bunches, puts them in the molds. Every cigar in the mold then goes back to the draw test room. And they draw test every single cigar.
Yeah, so every single cigar gets draw tested, and they do it in that step because if something comes back from one of the bunches and it doesn't draw test to their liking, they can they fix it. So all these molds are identified, so they know what pair they came from, right? So if there is consistently, an issue, they can address it with that buncher. Like, hey, we're not bunching enough, or we're bunching too much, or something along those lines. But that can helps to contribute to less waste and breakage and slippage in the cigars because they're being tested. Then it can still be fixed before then it's rolled by the finished roller
before
with the wrapper.
The wrapper is put on.
Yeah, I am convinced that the reason Perdomo is so consistent is because of that single step right there.
I agree.
Like, I don't know how true this is, but I was just saying, Arthur told us that a lot of other cigar companies will only do maybe like 1 in 10 for a draw test.
Yeah.
And he was like,
I believe it.
We do every single one. So
yeah,
I believe it 100%. And I think if, like, what we said earlier with Perdomo, some people don't like it because it's almost like it's boring because it's the same thing every time. But like, that's what makes Perdomo great, right? Like, the consistency that they've been able to achieve over the last 30 years is largely due to their commitment to quality control and making sure that all of their cigars are going to smoke properly. And I mean, that makes it easy for them to sell cigars. It makes it easy for us to recommend their cigars, because I know if I put a Perdomo in somebody's hand, it's going to smoke well. And on the rare occasion that it doesn't, then that's one of the few times where I'm like, that box probably wasn't stored properly then. Right? Like, you didn't put that box in your humidor. Like, they were dry, they were over humidified, whatever that may be, because they're the one company I know of that's like, their cigars are going to smoke damn near perfect every single time because they do that step right there.
Yeah, personally, I've never had a Perdomo with a tight draw. Yeah,
no,
I haven't either.
Me not, and no hyperbole. Like, literally can't think of an instance. And it was one of those points that I came back as a retailer owner with even more respect for Perdomo, because like I told the guys when we got back, it's like, listen, if they're back ordered on a certain vitola or size or certain line, there's a reason for it. It's not out of laziness or not doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's a reason for it, because everybody there is in all of the rooms, whether you're going from roller down to the sorting room, are paid by the piece. So you got to get it done and work hard to get paid. So nobody is slacking. Tell me if I'm right on this, Cole. I feel like Arthur said like the top level rollers that they have probably, depending on what they're rolling, obviously. You guys got to see the one she was rolling, the torpedoes. That's a more skilled roller than maybe somebody who's rolling standard toros or something. But a good roller could do roughly 400 in a day, I feel like was the number
Yes,
I
it
heard.
was. I think it was 350 or 400, but he said
Okay.
they actually limit their top rollers to that number because they said they could roll more. If they roll any more than that, that's when they start to run into actual like physical, carpal tunnel or cramping
Yep.
or stuff like that. So those really experienced rollers are hitting that limit basically every single day,
Yeah. And,
and then they're
and
done.
if they don't, they're not getting paid. So that was part of the, you're there observing, and they're very hospitable and enjoy you coming in and seeing, but you're also not trying to interrupt their
Oh yeah,
pace
they're working
or anything
hard
like that.
in
They're
there.
working hard. They have their scheduled breaks. I think there was a morning break, an afternoon break, their lunch break. Um, so
And they're all smoking cigars for
they're all
free.
smoking
They all
cigars.
get to
Yep.
smoke cigars during their shift.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, I mean, one thing that really impressed, it's like, the attention to detail, the science behind it, but also it's like an artisanship. The really good rollers, there's a artistic quality to that kind of performance of rolling the cigar that I was very impressed by watching some of their really experienced rollers.
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, you couldn't. I mean, I couldn't do it. I mean, I could do it in a sense, but not with any sort of. I mean, I would love to actually learn how to do it sometime.
That would
Just,
be
just,
cool.
just, just as for the respect of it,
Yeah.
to see what goes into it. But the average roller could probably roll in 20 perfect ones for the time it would take me to roll one shitty looking one that would get thrown out immediately.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little pipe and pint rolling class or something like
Yeah.
that.
There. Yeah. A
Yeah.
little rolling session. Yeah. Um, all right. So we come out of the rolling room, then we're moving on to finished product.
I was going to say one
And
final thing that
yeah.
really impressed me about the rolling room. So he took us. They have so first of all, it's inspector on top of inspectors. Like there's people inspecting the tables as they're being rolled. They have an
Yep.
inspection room in the back where all the bundles go to be inspected once they're done, and they bundle them into bundles of 50. So he took it was like just classic, I think like sun-grown Toro of some sort, but he took a bundle of 50 sun-grown Toros from one table from one partner, and he took another bundle, 50 Toros from another table, and he put them both on a scale. And I mean, this is all done by hand, all done by feel. I think they weighed within like 0.05 grams of each other. So
Yep.
even though it's all done by hand, it's very, very precise, which was
Yeah. And
impressive.
they've developed over time, just developed that feel, that artisan craftsman feel of how much they're getting, how much they're grabbing, how much they're bunching their molds. And like you said, the redundancies in inspecting and quality control gets you back to having a product that's just consistent every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, from the rolling room. After that, I'm trying to remember if we did I think from there they took us. So after that was lunch,
Yep.
and then after lunch you come back to the factory, and that's when they show you They start off by showing you the box factory. At least they did for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
So they have an entire, in that compound, they have an entire separate facility that's just for making the boxes, which is just as many people working just as hard as any other process that they have going
These
on there.
guys, these guys are flying through the boxes, man, and with the saws and the the Sanders and everything. It's like, it is, and then it's shifted down to the next guy. My favorite thing is you go from, like we said, it's older facilities, and has that feel. Everything's super clean, and taking care of everything like that. You get in that box factory, man. There is sawdust everywhere, piled up, coming out of every crack and crevice and everything like that. But those guys are
sawdust in my beard the rest of the day after that.
They are covered in it, but they are hustling through, cutting, shape and size, gluing, and it's like any good assembly line.
Yeah,
type
and again,
of
all done by
process.
hand. It's not like they're going down some conveyor belt where like a
it's not coming down some automated conveyor cutting the exact same size pieces of wood or anything like that. It's
people using
done
hand
by
tools,
hand.
using lathes, bandsaws, that kind of stuff.
Hammering the hinges in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the box factor is really cool because that kind of makes you realize that the boxes themselves are also an artisan product. Just as much work and care is being put into that aspect of it as much as the cigars, without a doubt.
Yeah, and it's all self-contained, everywhere from cutting it, gluing it, lids go on, and then off to lacquer and paint and putting on decals and everything like that. All separate rooms, but all just down the line. You're just waiting for the next one, group of them to come down, and it also probably they stay fairly consistent in their boxes across their lines in the look, sizing, and everything like that. So they're probably able to get numerous different lines of boxes out of the same box. So I'm sure that's very helpful when you're doing it like that.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then, so Box Factory is cool, very cool. And then from there, for us, they took us into their storage facility for the finished cigars and the packaging rooms. So they show you they have these big storage rooms with bundles upon bundles of cigars stacked up in there. Smells fantastic.
Yep.
And then right next to that is the area where the ladies are applying the bands. They're putting them in the cellophane and then ultimately putting them in the boxes.
Yep.
Which again, all done by hand. I mean, I have newfound respect just for even the box talkers on the front of Perdomo boxes. Because I saw, the girls sitting there putting every single one of those box talkers on there by hand. It was
made you feel tiny bad when you were ripping them out, didn't it?
Yeah, I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that after I got back.
Yeah. Listen, there was, like I said, there was a newfound respect I had coming out of there, based on how they do it and everything like that. And it made you appreciate the lengths they go to get you a quality product on the shelf.
Oh yeah. I think the overall theme I took away was, everything is, checked, double checked, inspected 10 times. Their consistency is because they're taking that kind of care on the front end before it gets to the customer. And they're doing that.
I remember you, and I think even Jason mentioned it when y'all got back, but I don't remember the number. How many hands touch a Perdomo cigar from start to finish?
Holy cow.
Because I feel like one of you told me it was in the 400 to 500.
I think the quote that Arthur was saying was 500 hands. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, when you go through the whole process from seed to finished product, I wouldn't be surprised.
And then actually another cool thing, we saw the Legacy storage room while we were there too. So it was the Legacy in storage before it actually, hit the shelves. And it had its own little locker with a nice, monogrammed door and stuff like that. So that was cool to see.
Very cool.
And that was also where they showed us the presses, the guys doing the box presses. So that was just a tiny little section of that facility where they, got those presses all lined up and they're, putting them in that machine where they crank it down. So it was cool to see that being done for sure. And I think they showed us they have a bunch of these big commercial freezers in there as well, where I think he was saying they freeze the tobacco to eliminate tobacco beetles.
That's right. Yep. Everything gets frozen.
And so, that was, then from there, we went into basically what was, and another cool thing from there, they're doing the color sorting. I thought this was super cool. So it's even if you have, a 10th anniversary Maduro that's gone through the same process, same tobacco as every other 10th anniversary Maduro, just because of how plants are, you could end up with a slightly different color. So they had a lady sitting there with like 300 cigars out in front of her, sorting them by color, basically by like the tiniest grade of variance in color. And he was like, we specifically hire ladies for this because they have more cones in their eyes, I think, so they can actually evaluate color better, which I thought was crazy that that was something being done by a person, basically. So that was pretty cool. And then from there, another one of my favorite experiences we did after that was, I think you did this as well, like the blind taste test of the cigars.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, I hadn't remembered if we had talked, if you guys went through that process. So yeah, walk us through that, and then I'm very curious to hear what ended up being the one that you gravitated towards.
Yeah, so they take you into a room, you get some more of that delicious Cuban coffee, and what you end up doing is a blind taste test of the different wrapper leaves. I think when we were there, it was just no, they had all three. It was Connecticut, Sun-Grown, and Maduro. But basically, you partner up with someone, and before you put your blindfold on, he's like, "All right." He asks everyone, he's like, "What do you go for in Perdomo? What's your favorite wrapper leaf?" And I like their Connecticut, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm a Connecticut guy when it comes to Perdomo." But you put your blindfold on, and the person across from you is basically handing you light your cigar, and they're handing you the cigar to taste different cigars without knowing which wrapper leaf it is you're smoking. And so the whole time in your mind, you're supposed to keep in mind, what you perceive to be your favorite of the wrapper leaves. And then you're trying, at one point, he'll be like, all right, put down the one you like the least, then put down the one that you like the second least. Hold on to the one that you like. And for some people, I will say, I said Connecticut, I ended up with Connecticut. So I stayed true to myself.
Yep.
But there were some people who were like, I can't smoke Maduro. I can't do it. It's too spicy. It's too full body. It's too strong. And at the end of that process, they would end up with a Maduro in their hand.
Yep.
So that kind of an interesting way to really reevaluate your own taste when it comes to cigars and to really actually truly taste the tobacco without any preconception of what you think you're going to be getting.
Yeah, I went in with a bias to sun-grown. That's my favorite with Perdomo, and did come out with sun-grown as well.
But yeah, there were some people changed up.
Yeah.
It's such a fascinating thing to do. But so I've been watching a lot of cooking videos here recently, like Facebook Reels and stuff. And there was a Master Chef one, and they had the 1 inch cube challenge, is what they call it. And so they had 1 inch cubes of all these different things, and you wore a blindfold, and people had to figure out what that food was while they were wearing the blindfold. And they were talking about how you eat with your eyes. Right.
Yeah.
And I think you also smoke with your eyes too, right? Like when you're picking out the cigar that you want and whatnot. But it was interesting because one guy had gotten every single thing right, and then he got a 1 inch cube of a strawberry, and he was tasting it, and he ended up saying, I think it was I want to say raspberry or something. And so it's just so interesting that when you can't see, those preconceived notions that you have of what something tastes like disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably the number one thing. Like, when you go, I'd be the most curious as to how you sort yours out. I feel like, you're considered our connoisseur, our number one guy. So I don't doubt that if you said that Maduro is going to be your favorite, you come out with a Maduro. But I'd be very interested to see. I don't see a world where you say you go in Maduro and then come out Connecticut, but you never know.
Yeah. I think for us, it's a little different, like being in the business and smoking just a ton of cigars. But
I think so too.
For people who were there, the wives of the husbands who were there, and they're like, I only ever smoke a Connecticut because I think it's the lightest and whatever. And then, one lady ended up, with the Maduro. And she's like, I didn't even realize, so it can be mind blowing for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
that kind of wraps it up, though. That's the last thing, and then
that's pretty much the last thing. The only other thing after that was the Perdomo University, which is like their little kind of marketing, like how to set up your shelf presentation, which was
So they set up at the end the last, I don't know, hour and a half before you break for dinner that last night. Arthur leads this, like you said, Perdomo University. You take some notes, and they kind of go over through their reasoning and their thinking behind how they merchandise, how they'd like it to look on your shelves, and why they believe it works, best for them. I disagree with some of the things when it comes to realistic practice of it. But Arthur will tell you, I think somebody said, well, that'd take up half my humidor. And he's like, well, I want the whole humidor to begin with. So, you know what I mean? He'd rather just be all Perdomo in there, which I from their perspective, I completely and totally understand. I think sometimes in realistic practice, it can't always be like that. But, I think we do as good a job as we can, excuse me, setting it up to their liking. But yeah, they very much have a mold for which they want you to present their product. They
definitely. Which,
they
I mean, to me,
time, energy, and money researching it.
There are parts of that which is annoying from the retail aspect, but I took it as like, it just further emphasizes how complete their vision is when it comes to their product. It's like, they don't just they put so much time and effort into these cigars. They don't want them to go sit in some humidor that looks like shit, basically, and, be covered in dust and be all like, out of order and stuff like that. So they have a vision for how they want their cigars to be sold, which I can respect that without a doubt.
And based on what you've seen through that tour up to that point, you wouldn't expect them to then half-ass it at the very end, right? No. Like, you've taken the time, the money, the energy to produce a product like that, and then the retail store shelf to fall short would be, a missed opportunity. So, and again, I think they do an awesome job of merchandising. I think their box always looks great. I don't dislike the shelf talkers. I think they look good. I think they pop on the shelves. If I was critiquing or criticizing, I think sometimes it can all look a little too similar. Including Legacy, I think can be a little like, from the visual eye when you walk in, a little visually confusing from the box perspective as to which one is which. I wish there was a little bit more definition. But it always looks good. They use a very specific and special printer of their bands. It's like in Belgium or Brussels. I can't remember, but it's overseas because they want a very specific process done. So yeah, I wouldn't expect them to half-ass it at the very end, certainly.
Yeah. And yeah, that pretty much wrapped it up. You go back. That was the night after the Perdomo University, he gave us each a Toro of the shade grown Legacy. So we all got to smoke that, a couple months before it hit the market, basically.
Yeah. So you guys got to smoke that months in advance. So if that was the middle of February, we didn't get it till what? July? April?
Oh, no, well, yeah, on the shelf. Yeah. July.
On the shelf. Yeah. We got to try it at the trade show, but it wasn't on the shelves until, I guess, was it June 30th is when it shipped, or June 23rd it shipped? Yeah. So
it was right after Father's Day. Yeah, it was right after Father's Day.
Yeah, the 23rd. Yep.
But yeah, that was a cool experience because like everyone sat down, lit up a Legacy, and we were all just like kind of mind blown, basically, about how fantastic of a cigar it was. So that was a nice little cap to the trip to be able to.
Yeah, and like Ethan mentioned, it shipped on June 23rd because I remember that explicitly, and we got it, a few days later, and today's July 20th, so we're not even barely 3 weeks into having it on our shelves, and
we've reordered it twice.
We've reordered it twice already, so that just goes to show you how popular the cigar is. And we've talked about it. It's going to be, for me personally. I don't know if the two of you feel the same way. It's going to be hard to beat it at this point for what I'm expecting to come out and what's already come out this year, for it not to be near the top, if not the top of the list as cigar of the year for me personally. Specifically, I mean, I love that Connecticut though, but the uniqueness of that shade grown, the hybrid. And I would not be surprised if other reviewers feel the same way. I don't know when they'll do it. I'm very curious to see what Half Wheel thinks of it.
Yeah, I've been checking like every day to see if they reviewed it yet, and surprised they haven't.
Yeah, I'd be very curious as to see what their response is going to be to it, if it's as glowing as our initial reception has been of it. Yeah. All right, well, hey, before we wrap up, give me one thing that you were maybe the most surprised about on the tour, and then if there was something that maybe you were a little thrown off by, or not necessarily disappointed by, or anything like that.
I'd say surprised by. I would just say I'm surprised by overall how like everything was done by hand. I mean, he's like, we have 5,000 workers here in this facility every day. So going into like a factory environment you would expect there to be kind of that factory feel, some automation, something like that. But yeah, I was just surprised by how legitimately old school and done by hand everything actually was. It's like, they showed us, as far as I could tell, like every nook and cranny of that facility, and it was, they weren't hiding anything behind closed doors. It seemed like, I remember Arthur at one point, he was like, at some point, some people in the company were like, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't tell them that we draw test every cigar." And Nick Perdomo was like, "Screw that! We just show them everything. We show them our process."
Yeah, absolutely. What's the reason to shouldn't be ashamed of taking those extra steps?
Yeah. So I was surprised by just how above board it all was. How how done by hand, how much artisan kind of vision went into it. And then the other one, you said something like off-putting, something.
Yeah, something that maybe it was disappointing, and it doesn't have to be anything, like, or maybe caught you off guard.
I would agree with kind of you, like the Perdomo University, the marketing aspect.
Yeah,
rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, because I feel like they're just not really maybe fully in touch with the reality of
what
stocking a humidor. Because it's like, we talked about this the other day. It's like they have a vision of exactly how they want it to look. But if I have one box of 20th Churchill and I sell that off the shelf, I'm not going to go order one box of 20th Churchill.
We just can't do it.
Make my humidor look how they want it to be. So I was kind of like, okay, you're not really, I get it, but you're not totally in touch with the reality of it. But overall, I mean, there were no real negatives at all. I
agree.
Awesome.
Like I said, I was most impressed by the quality control of everything, and what the lengths that they go to make sure they're delivering a great product. As we prep you for hopefully going in February, what do you think you're most excited to see or most interested in seeing in there?
The scope.
Yeah.
The scope of it all, right? Because I mean, obviously, I've seen pictures and everything, but I feel like it's one of those things that until you see it in person, you can't fully understand how big the operation is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So I mean, obviously, I'm excited to smell the curing barns and the all that kind of stuff, but I just want to see the scope of it to fully, because like I have a picture of it, I think it is in my head, but I imagine it's probably even bigger.
Yeah.
And I'll say, coming back from it, like I've smoked more Perdomo coming back from that trip by far than I did before. Like I almost smoke only Perdomo now. And it's like having had that experience, like I can light up a Perdomo cigar and you get those just, tasting elements where it's like, oh, this reminds me of the fermentation room. This reminds me of the smells that I was experiencing there. It kind of gives you context basically to what you're experiencing with the cigar, which I think is awesome.
And I think that's probably the number one reason they do these things, right? Because I mean, you got exactly from it what they were hoping you did, which was a connection to it. And if you have a connection to that, you feel like you can speak on it from a sales perspective to a customer coming in with a level that the average, retailer can't, right?
It has helped so much in that aspect.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you had a great time. We'll have a group of people going back again this year. Hopefully Mr. Botts is on that trip. We'll see if he has any more babies or the flu or COVID or whatever he might have.
Fingers crossed, no babies.
All right. Well, that's good. I appreciate it, Cole. Thanks for the time, bud. And we will talk to everybody on the next episode. I appreciate it, boys.
Between two burns, yeah, between two burns. Come and join the convo. Jason and Ethan here to talk, yo. Chilling while we filling up the room with cigar smoke. Hey, between two burns, yeah, between two burns. This be the show that you like. We always keeping it hype. We got cigars in the mic, talking the pipe and the pint. Let's go.